All right. Anyway, so we've built up to the match. And before we talk about the actual match, let's talk about stipulation for a second. Before we wax poetic about Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns in a match for the one of the world titles versus leaving SmackDown. Help me on this, and I know they've built it up that yes, Reigns said, "I'm sick of you. I don't want to look at you. You know, this place ain't big enough but I want you off of my show." All right, I get that, and that's why for the match, if he gets one chance and if he doesn't win, then he has to leave SmackDown forever. Yes, but into people's mind, Brian, is that enough of a penalty to put on Daniel Bryan to make this a big stipulation? You got to leave this show. People go back and forth from those shows all the time. They've got a draft. They just did a draft. People change back and forth. I guess what I'm saying is, yes, it works for their story, but it's diluted and watered down now when a stipulation is you can't be on this show anymore. You've got to either go to Raw or NXT or whatever. We got 3 or 4 other shows you can be on. Just can't be on this one. When you mentioned Heyman being the natural progression of a Northeastern manager. This is the natural leave SmackDown, seems to me to be the natural progression of loser leave town or loser leave the company. But now it's just loser leave this one show. Is that enough of a penalty? Is that a big deal to get? Because especially when and loser retire, how can we forget those stipulations that almost nobody adheres to? So was this just, as a stipulation? It didn't have a lot of oomph behind it to me.
It doesn't have a lot of oomph if the next thing you see is him appear on Raw on Monday or NXT on Tuesday. If he just pops up on another show, no. And quite frankly, when you think about it, if you're thinking, wow, this is a guy that the little bits I know about his personal life are he loves his personal life. He has a family. He has kids. I bet he's going to love having Fridays off. They're not running house shows. He's about to get a long weekend every weekend.
But I guess, then, if that's the case, if he doesn't pop back up on Raw or NXT or whatever, then why would they not have advertised it as you've got to leave the WWE? Unless he's going to come back to another program fairly soon, why wouldn't you make it bigger? That's the question I'm asking. So we don't know maybe he's going to go home and come back in 3 weeks or whatever on Raw, or maybe even on SmackDown, since they don't care about their stipulations. But I remember when, if you're going to do a stipulation, especially involving the world title or one of them, it needed to be something of dire consequence to the end. As I said, in the territories, the loser leave town matches, people didn't know then when guys' runs were up and they were leaving to go to another territory. So loser leave town matches did great business, especially if it was an over babyface people didn't want to lose, and a hot heel that they really did want to lose, that it had a run. Is like, who's going to beat him? And boom. And when it was 2 guys that had been in a territory for a long time and had been established, then it really drew. Obviously, the first Lawler and Dundee, they did 2 of them. The second one was 3 years later and didn't do as well. But the first one sold out 11,300 people, turned probably 1,000 or 2 away, set a gate record in Memphis because Dundee had been there for 8 years and Lawler had been there for 11, and they couldn't call it. And if the loser leave the company still did business years ago when it became a company-wide thing and it was national television and you knew somebody couldn't go to a different territory, the loser leave the company or whatever, then they fucked that up by prostituting it, and then the loser retire. We know what's gone on there. But just leave this TV show. was not a thrilling stipulation, but it was a free TV show. So what the fuck, right?
Do you think Lawler and Dundee in 83, both the match and, I guess looking at it in 2021 terms, the week before, the go-home show, both in Memphis and the localized version, or the syndicated version to the other towns, do you think that's the best example of how to do it? Just the 1-2 punch of the build-up show and then the match?
Yes, because still in the internet didn't exist. Most of those people thought that their town was getting the exclusive match. That's why they pretty much set a record in every town. And the way they did it, for the people who are newer listeners, they did their regular 90-minute live TV show in Memphis on Saturday morning to promote the show on Monday night, which, as I mentioned, sold out 11,300. And they did a separate 1-hour pre-taped show to go to Louisville, Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee, Evansville, Indiana, and Lexington, Kentucky, to promote the show a week later, because there was a week's delay in the live show in Memphis and when it aired the following week in all those other markets. So they basically took that hour that would normally air the Memphis show from the previous week to instead do a 1-hour sit down with the principals, show the tapes. They even, to put more doubt in people's mind, that was at a time when they were working with, oh goddamn, it was Ole in Georgia, right? Or who was speaking for Georgia at that point? But they had a couple of different promotions mention that they would, like those, if their top star was to lose and have to leave town or whatever.
Did you get that in Smoky Mountain directly from them doing it there in 83?
Yes, of course. And we just had, different fucking people to reach out to. That's why when I did it with the Heavenly Bodies into Rock and Roll, that was another one they couldn't call. That's why that finish got the biggest pop in the history of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from those people in Pikeville, because they didn't know. They knew that both teams had appeared on WWE television. They knew that some of the Memphis wrestlers had come back and forth and vice versa. So I had Eddie Marlin, and was it Eddie at the time in Memphis? Yeah. And Vince for the WWF say that, we'd be glad to have either one of these teams or whatever. So the point I'm making is that was always a big drawing stipulation when the stipulation was adhered to, and B, when the people couldn't call the finish. Who's going to have to leave this? And every territory, if we sat here and did a history of each territory individually, every territory had some big loser leave town match that people still remember because that was the end of some big stars era or whatever. And it was a major draw. But now you can't, unless you're really leaving the company, you can't have a loser leave town match, and then they don't want to fight. They just fire you on the internet and don't make a stipulation out of it. So that's another thing that we've lost, is just it's the way that they've prostituted the stipulations to begin with, and then the fact that nobody ever really does go away, and if they do, the company that they're leaving doesn't want you to know they're going, because they've already fucking beat you into powder and finished you up.
I think one of my favorite Loser Leaves Town matches is, it's just perfect. The whole setting, everything's perfect. 1982, Mid-South Wrestling. It's supposed to be the tag team champions, the Junkyard Dog and Mr. Olympia versus Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw Duggan. But Hacksaw Duggan, nowhere to be seen. And it's set in a realistic way that you're like, oh man, it just sounds like this guy skipped town and isn't coming back. And the State Fair is outside the Irish McNeil Boys Club. And Paul Bosch and Bill Watts are in the crowd talking to these fans. It's packed with kids, people everywhere. There's a guy in a gorilla outfit from the State Fair dancing with the kids. So they announced that Ted DiBiase has a substitute partner for this match, where the stipulation is the loser leaves town. The loser of the fall leaves town. And it's Matt Bourne. who no one in Mid-South has ever heard of or seen. So now it's DiBiase and Matt Bourne against JYD, who's the most popular wrestler there, and Mr. Olympia, who was popular and fantastic in the ring. To having this match, the gorilla attacks during the match. Junkyard Dog reveals himself to be Hacksaw Jim Duggan, or as Bill Watts said on commentary, "That's Dugan! That's Dugan!" And the Junkyard Dog, not Matt Bourne, the guy you had never seen before, who you thought would have been the one to lose, but the Junkyard Dog loses, and that crowd felt it. They believed it. They really believed he was gone. Little did they know that there was a bully he had when he was a kid.
That's right. That no good Stagger Lee that used to steal my lunch money. He used to steal my lunch money. But now he the baddest man around, and I gone to get Stagger Lee to come back and take care of this situation. And I've got an update for you just real quick. Also, motherfucker, I've just looked out my window. They're back working on this goddamn fire hydrant at my neighbors. They've got, hold on. Well,
this is an update.
There's a dump truck, a pickup truck, a box truck with flashing red lights, a pickup truck with flashing lights. They've got the goddamn traffic stop. People are turning around in my driveway. And the only thing that I can assume, because I can't reach my binoculars, is that these motherfuckers are continuing to work on this fire hydrant. I wish they'd go in my backyard. I got plenty of water. If they need some up here, they could reroute the shit from what I've got for free in my backyard.
Can they hear you from your office? Can you yell out the window? And
I could yell at that distance. I believe I'd be pissing in the wind, as they say.
Okay.
I could try it, but we got the rest of the program to do. Anyway, that's the update on the construction situation over here.
And that's the stipulations for a loser leaves town match.
That's right.